Well, I'd like to get the show on the road here. So welcome everybody to our uh, our smallest meeting of the year, but it's actually the largest meeting of the year if you think about it. Glad you could come and found your way through the ice and snow. I want to mention for those of you that you were here last time, you might remember this big book giveaway, and we ran out. But we actually got a few more, so if you didn't get one last time, you can pick one up between the speakers' sessions, and you get sort of first dibs on it. And if there's something left and others want them, please allow those people that got shut out last time a chance to get one to take back. And also, I got a pitch for the members who are watching from home. I'm certain some of the people that show up today have decided to just watch from home. But others that usually watch from home probably got a survey about the meetings. Why do you attend? Why don't you attend? That kind of thing. And that survey is due Saturday evening. So if you could look up the email that you got and fill out the survey, that would be terrific. I think most of the people who attended last time, the surveys were on the table, so we've already collected those. I guess I want to get started here with our friend Al. He's got a SIG update that's going to be a new, improved SIG update.
So the issue we have nowadays is that we have an awful lot of SIGs. We now have 15 shared interest groups. That's way too many for me to sit up here and stand up here and talk about every month. You get information about the SIGs in your newsletter, on the websites, and I can't get this microphone to stay. Yeah, I'll just hold it. So we're going to try a little bit different approach as far as the SIGs go. I like you to meet the SIG leaders, so I'm going to bring a SIG leader up to each month to talk about what they do with theirs. And then the rest of it, I'm just going to highlight any new changes that we have going on with the SIG groups. As far as the details of what they're doing and when they're doing them, you'll get emails from the leaders if you sign up on our sign-up sheet over there. We have write-ups in the newsletter and on the websites with all those other details. So a little bit of a change, because otherwise I'll be up here for an hour as we keep adding more and more SIGs, and I don't want to stand here that long. So this month I'm going to introduce to you Joe Marker. Joe is the leader of our travel discussion SIG, and he's just going to give you kind of a brief update of what that shared interest group does. Joe?
What if I just pull
Pull that out.
Pull it out, but I think it's tight now. I got it.
Okay. You can hear me, right? Okay. The travel discussion group is not a travel group. Okay. In other words, we don't go on trips. We talk about trips. So in early 2024, Al realized that there was a lot of interest in travel among the UMRA members. We then formed the UMRA Travel Discussion Shared Interest Group. We meet monthly to discuss travel-related topics. Now, at most of the meetings, we have somebody presenting travel to a specific destination. And that's what most of the meetings are. But about 1/3 of the meetings, we have travel-related topics of interest, such as cruises or travel insurance, traveling by air, how to use a travel agent, things like that. That's about 1/3 of the meetings. The meetings are informal, and we always encourage questions during the presentations. We found we get better participation if we do it that way rather than having people wait to the end for questions. We have over 100 members. Most of the monthly meetings are Zoom meetings, but about 1/3 of the meetings we meet in person. We're meeting at the Pittsfield Library now, but we also, when we meet in person, we also have people that can join in by Zoom, so you can do it both ways. We meet on the fourth Tuesday of every month, except when that fourth Tuesday is too close to a major holiday. Then we move it a week earlier. What we found is that some members have a certain amount of anxiety about the thought of presenting a topic at the meeting. And then that's usually quieted down when they realize they have experienced volunteers to help them prepare. So we always have experienced people that would help somebody prepare. And there's no need, if you're presenting a topic, there's no need to have a fancy audio-visual presentation. I mean, some people do, but other times we've just had conversation with no audio-visuals. We emphasize a relaxed and interactive atmosphere, and we poll members both on topics they want to hear about and about topics they want to talk about. So that's the travel discussion group.
Tell them what the topic is for this month.
Oh, the topic this month is travel to Ireland. We have 2 speakers going to speak. That's on, I believe, January 27th. Okay, thank you. Yes? The Zoom meetings were usually around in the 20s.
In the 20s.
In the 20s.
But the other thing is, an awful lot of people that they are recorded, so you can watch the you can listen to the discussion even afterwards if you want to know about a particular country or topic, and we get another 100 people that watch it at another time. Just it's a nice sized group with 20 that we get for the monthly discussions. Sorry.
Okay, thank you.
So, but I do need to tell you about, we have 4 new shared interest groups. The Music for Fun group had their first, they had an organization meeting, and then they had their first meeting at the Dexter Library yesterday with a good turnout and a good start. Sue Bate is our leader, and she tells me we had a very good start there. Matt Troba that led us in singing at our meeting last month maybe encouraged people. We probably didn't sound as bad as he thought we might be, because we sounded pretty good. That group met yesterday, but with Sue being heading out to Florida, then we're not going to meet again until April. So pay attention to the write-ups that you get from her, and the next one will be, yes, Sandy.
Can you tell me what the whole focus is? Is it people presenting music, people singing, bringing their instruments, talking about where they like to go?
All of the above. All of it.
Yeah.
It's just having fun with music. A lot of singing, a lot of instrument playing. We have a list of songs that we choose from. We have 250 songs already listed with the chords for people to play instruments to, and the words. And we just, Liz, did we have fun? Yeah.
But does everybody play an instrument?
No, a lot. Half the group just sang, which, well, everybody can sing. But actually, Matt Wetruba suggested we encourage people to come just to sing. If they don't play an instrument, please come. It was really fun.
The other thing, we've talked to people that are interested in learning to play an instrument, and this is a good place to talk to people that have learned. These are not professional people by any means, and it's just a chance to get together and enjoy some music. The other new SIGs are the UMRA movie reviewers, and they are having their organization meeting on January 22nd. The mindfulness and meditation group, and we also have somebody that taught that here at Washtenaw Community College is going to help lead that group and help you use that topic. They are meeting on January 28th. The UMRA Gardens, we was going to have their organization meeting in January, but unfortunately our leader came down with shingles and she is dealing with that. But the sign-up table is over there. Sign up for those things and you'll get announcements so you can be part of the organization groups that are setting up these new SIGs. And I will just remind you that UMRA walks and UMRA hikes continues no matter what the weather is practically. So they will continue during the winter. And of course, so the community service, Mahjong, UMRA Reads, all are continuing their monthly meetings. Bikes, archery, golf, and kayaks are certainly on hold at this point. So that's all I want to say. That's a little bit shorter than normal. Get over to the table, get over there and sign up afterwards. And so now I go on to my new role, which is starting some of the travel discussion. Carol Williams is going to come up, but I've had people ask me about the Camp Michigania for the winter. We did not get enough people to sign up for that, so that is canceled. And I've called the people that did sign up. I do have one ticket left for the hockey game on February 26th, so if you're interested in going to the U of M hockey game, we've got, 30-something people going to that hockey game. So if you're interested, I have one ticket left. And then I'm kind of excited about, we now have an overnight trip to Stratford planned for next October 14th to 16th. I already have the tickets. I have a bus arranged and 2 nights hotel at the Best Western Hotel that I understand is actually a very, very nice hotel there with a fantastic restaurant, people tell me. So we'll be seeing 3 plays, and the cost for the bus, the hotel, 2 nights hotel, and 3 plays is under $500 a person. So I think it's a pretty good deal. And then yesterday I talked to somebody that graduated from the theater program at Michigan. He was also a National Park Ranger and worked for the Canadian Consulate and has been doing Stratford trips for years. He's a somewhat professional actor, and he is going to join us on the bus. So the bus ride up there, which should be entertaining because he'll tell you about Stratford and some of the plays and help you understand the Tempest, the Shakespeare play. Sometimes you have to study that ahead of time. So encourage you to sign up. There is a deadline of early April. That's way in advance, but we have to come up with a down payment, and they let me go till April on that. So if you're interested, sign up early so that we get enough funds to make this trip a go. With that, Carol, come up and tell them the rest.
Now we do this. Hi, everybody. Oops. Only I could pull the whole thing off. Okay. So, this month, January, the 29th, which is like 2 weeks, we are going down to Cleveland to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. I just talked to the coordinator, and she said it's a go, even though we don't have a lot of people, but we need more people. So if you're interested, pink flyer, Rock and Roll Hall of Fame on the 29th of January. If you haven't seen it, it's great. Plus, you might not just go down there by yourself unless you're really interested. So this is a great chance to be together. On March 14th, we're going to the Hill Auditorium for the Debussy Ann Arbor Symphony Orchestra. The conductor is one of the best in his generation. And so we're going to let you find your own way to Hill and then plan to join us for this presentation. It's at 7:30 on Sunday, March 14th. We have 2 new trips that you didn't know about last time. We're going to Dexter to the Encore Musical Theater for the play Rent, and that's on April 16th. It's a matinee, and then afterward we're going to try to walk over to Aubrey's to have afterglow dinner. I think I said, hold on. I can't keep all these dates in my mind. That's April. I think we have something planned for March, but it's still in the planning. In May. The trip in June to Belle Isle, June 18th, is sold out. But there is a wait list. I know, I heard a gasp. It is sold out, but there is a wait list. Get your name to me, because I imagine by June 18th, a few people's plans may change. Then on June 30th, we're going to a Mud Hens game. We're going to see the Toledo Mud Hens play the Iowa Cubs. It's a day game. It's a senior day. We have seats in the shade, and the seats are covered. Your fee includes lunch, your bus trip, and lunch is hot dog, soda, and chips, but there's other food available. We've reserved 40 seats, so if you'd like to join us for that baseball game, it's always fun. How many people have been? Good. Well, I hope you'll join us again. Then, as Al said, Stratford, he told you probably all you need to know about Stratford, but it's the yellow flyer. And then he didn't mention the fall Camp Michigania. So, did you?
I did not mention that.
I'm sorry.
Winter, not the fall.
Yeah, right, the fall one. So Camp Michigania is going to be on September 26th through the 29th. And everything you need to know, again, is on the flyer, including the costs. And it's a choice of three nights, 3 days and 2 nights. Choose to stay. Yeah, or 4 days and 3 nights. I have to read my own flyers. So if you have any questions, anything at all, please come and see me. And I hope we'll see a lot of you on our trips. And I'm sorry I broke your equipment.
So I'm going to ask our sponsors to come up and introduce themselves and say a few words. You're going to have to, I'm not going to try to fix the mic, so you're going to just have to use the one I'm using. If you like, maybe we can get some repairs while.
This is the broken mic we're using?
No, that's working.
This is the working mic?
Hello. Hey, everyone. Hi. Hello. My name's Daniel. I'm with Fidelity. I'm happy to be out here because I've only been in Michigan for less than a year, and this is the most snow I've ever seen fall in one day. I know this is a normal Tuesday for all of you. But yeah, if you have any questions, if you know what Fidelity is, if you have any questions regarding income planning or your retirement plan, you can come see me. I'm over there at the back in this shirt because I won't be changing. And that's about it. Have a great day.
Hi, my name is Phil Hollander. I'm with Two Bird Wealth Strategies. We're a local boutique wealth advisory office just in the Dixboro area, just across from the general store, if you're familiar. We work with plenty of retirees like yourselves to help make sure you are making the most of what you worked for and saved for, and help you find continued optimal solutions just for the many years you have ahead of you. So if you have any questions or curious about it, please feel free to talk with me. Thanks.
Hello, everyone. I'm Lori, and I'm with Brookdale West Eisenhower Parkway Memory Care. So kind of fitting with our speaker today about risk factors for cognitive decline and dementia. We are Ann Arbor's only standalone memory care community. If you do know a loved one or a friend that is experiencing dementia of any kind, we invite them to come visit us and participate in our programs. And I also urge everybody to check out the communities before you need to check out the communities. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Julie Kraft. I am with EHM Senior Solutions in Saline. I am with the Life Choices program. Life Choices is a continuing care at home program. It's an entrance fee program with monthly payments, but what you are doing is you are planning for your future healthcare needs. It's kind of like a long-term care policy, but on steroids. If your goal is to stay at home while you age and age in place, you need to come see me. I will be in the back. Our next presentation, we just had a presentation this morning at Weber's, that's why I'm late, but we have another presentation coming up on February 10th, and I would be happy to give you the information for that. Thanks so much.
Thank you to our sponsors.
We got one more coming up. Kathy, go ahead, come up. And I don't know where Bo went. He must have went into the restroom, but we have another one back here.
It's all right.
Bad timing on my part. Hi, Happy New Year, everybody. It's good to see everybody and virtually whoever's out there. Kathy with Care Management by Natalie. Please come and get some information to set up your new year. And we have some chocolate that I need to get rid of today because if I have to take it home, I'll eat it. So thank you very much.
Well, thanks again. I'd like to see if there's any new members that are with us today. If there are new members, I'm going to bring the mic to you so you can introduce yourself.
No, I can do it.
You got it?
Hi, everyone. My name is Lisa Bradley Kern. I'm just recently retired on January 6th from the Broad School of Business.
Anybody else?
First, we got somebody? Hold on. I'm coming. Come. Didn't see you raise.
My name is Melanie Herbert. I just retired June 29th from the Department of Pathology. I worked in the molecular diagnostics lab with Dr. Noah Brown.
Anybody else?
First-time members too, or first-time attendees? No? Okay.
That's it. So now we have a little break before our speaker, and I'm told that this is repaired, so it shouldn't fall apart anymore. So 1 o'clock is when our speaker begins. I'm not sure if she's here yet, Al. Okay, great. Take a break. Get a lunch. Get some of those candies you heard about.
Okay, everybody, we're going to get started. And it's just me back because I forgot one special trip. I think the second speaker is going to be a very helpful person for me.
So, you can change it with this.
Thanks, Diane. March 25th, we are going to Meadowbrook for Come From Away. It's a story of the planes that had to land in Gander, Newfoundland because of 9/11. So we have 9 seats left. Sign up. I apologize. Like I say, the second speaker is going to be helpful to me.
And you're not alone for forgetting things. So the table on the side here, you probably see the big billboard, the shared interest group. So right next to it is Karen Schill's Write a Cheery Note to, there's a variety, I think, of recipients that get it, Meals on Wheels, et cetera. So if you have time today, after you pick up your book, to write a cheery note, I'd encourage you to do so. And one final thing before I introduce Al again, I guess I have the pleasure of introducing Al every time, is to remind people who are watching remotely that you can send your questions in to our website, which is umra.umich.edu, which is being monitored here so we can get your question live to the presenters. So with that, here comes Al again.
So now it's my pleasure to introduce our speaker. The Alumni Association Board of Directors voted unanimously to appoint Ayanna McConnell as the president and CEO of the Alumni Association of the University of Michigan on October 26th, 2023. So she's been around now for a couple years. I've been fortunate that over those 2 years I've gotten to know her fairly well. We have kind of a regular meeting with our connection between our two organizations. She has more than 25 years of experience leading student and alumni programs at the University of Michigan and at Eastern Michigan University. Before being named president and CEO, she was vice president for university relations, during which she oversaw all aspects of the association's university relations, student and fundraising and development programs. Also led the association's strategic initiatives on diversity, equity, and inclusion and justice. She originally joined the Alumni Association in 1998, stayed around till 2002, but then came back in 2011 and designed the student community for the LEAD scholarship programs, which I expect she'll talk about a little bit today. She is a Detroit native, attended the University of Michigan, and completed her bachelor's degree in business administration at Clary University and her master's degree in higher education and student affairs at Eastern Michigan University. She met her husband while she was here at Michigan and has 2 children. I will just say over recent years, UMRA and the Alumni Association have done a lot of things together. We have a lot of the same type of goals. They provide us with speaker ideas at times. They help me get football tickets and hockey tickets. Probably the thing people like best is they allow us to go to Camp Michigania in the fall. Everybody always appreciates that. And we now have kind of a new initiative to work with some of the alumni clubs in the various parts of the country to have, with the goal of increasing our membership from people that live outside the area, as well as increasing the membership of retirees that join the Alumni Association. So a lot of the same goals that we're working together with, and every year we come up with some new things. So with that, I will introduce Ayanna McConnell.
Good afternoon. Can everyone hear me okay? Awesome. So I like to start by adding a little bit of maize and blue energy wherever I go. So I think you'll know what to do. 1, 2, 3, go blue. Go blue. 1, 2, 3, go blue. Go blue. Excellent. I also want to acknowledge that it's wonderful to be here with Al, who does such a phenomenal job of representing all of you. When we have our visits, I always learn something new more often about what we have in common. So thank you for the kind invitation to be here and the warm introduction. It feels like coming home because I served with Carol on the Women's Council here at Washtenaw Community College, and I see one of your first or newest members, Lisa, who I participate in a couple of organizations with. So you have a phenomenal volunteer in your midst, but I am also a little jealous. So let me just start there. I was sitting over there and listening to all the plans you have. Michigania and Stratford, and we're gonna go to theater and Belle Isle, and I just thought, I want to be in this room. I want to join. I want to be a part of this UMRA. So thank you for giving me a new goal to strive for. But it sounds like you have a lot of community and connections, and those are two things that are really at the core of who we are as an alumni association, and also that you are made possible by some very loyal volunteers. And again, that is something else that we have in common. So I'm trying not to be jealous, but I am a little bit, because you are giving me something exciting to look forward to. I knew I could not be here for too long without acknowledging some great news. So in case you missed it on Sunday or Monday, the Regents just elected Kent Syverud as the next president of the University of Michigan. Imagine my surprise Sunday when I'm sitting at home, minding my business, anticipating that there's going to be an announcement soon. We knew there was going to be a special meeting, and I see Kent Syverud all over my feeds. And I'm like, why are they talking about our new board member at the Alumni Association? Oh, because our new board member might have the shortest tenure ever on our board because he's just been selected as the next president. Last summer, I had the pleasure of meeting Kent virtually and spending time with him as he was considering a board appointment to our Alumni Association Board of Directors. And just something else that we have in common, we are also run by volunteers. So I'm not on the university's org chart. I report to a group of 22 alumni from all across the country and world, and Kent was one of those people. So excited because he was going to bring such a treasure of higher ed perspective and leadership to our board. But I can just tell you firsthand, he is incredibly kind, incredibly genuine. He has a heart for higher education and a love of Michigan that is almost unmatched. He met his wife, Dr. Ruth Chin, here at the University of Michigan. They have 3 fantastic adult sons. I believe he actually has a home up in northern Michigan, and he too will be visiting Camp Michigania this spring. So we're just thrilled that he said yes to the Regents, and I'm just so excited for you to get to know him over time as he rejoins the University of Michigan community. As you can see, he has had ties back to Michigan, most recently when he was at the law school as an associate dean. So very special. If you did not get a chance to see the live stream on Monday, I encourage you to go to the university's website. He gave some remarks that were very heartfelt. And so we're just delighted that Kent Syverud will be joining us as our next president. I also anticipate there might be some history buffs in the room. So in case you were wondering, he is the job, and we will actually really miss Domenico and Susan, and maybe I can tease him about joining UMRA now that he will be stepping down in May. But Ruthven and Hutchins were the only 2 previous presidents who were also alums. So Kent Syverud is joining some great company. And yet this was 100 years ago since the last alum became president. I also like to anchor conversations in our mission. So again, as you talked about, a lot of your activities, enrichment really stood out to me, how inclusive you are, how you want to make sure that people have a lot of really fantastic experiences. But that's really our lifelong mission, is to make sure that all 697,000 alumni feel an opportunity to be connected for a lifetime back to say that we're in the theater district of campus. So I get to see the Michigan League outside my window, and I bring up the Michigan League because it was really made possible by a wonderful group of women, the Alumni Council, who many years ago said, women can't go into the Michigan Union. We got to do something about that. And so that's how the Michigan League came to be. And it's such an important cornerstone of our institution. But we also are near the Power Center and Hill Auditorium. So as you consider making your treks to all of those great artistic activities, I know a lot of you probably take advantage of what University Musical Society and Music, Theater, and Dance have to offer as well on our campus. As I mentioned, this is our board of directors. One of the things I am most proud about is the breadth and depth of our directors in terms of the industries that they represent, the schools and colleges, the regions that they live in. One of the things that makes Michigan really unique is we are one of the 3 universities in the state where the regents are elected officials. Everyone else is appointed, but that pretty much means that you need to live in Michigan. With our board of directors, we are able to have alumni that represent viewpoints in Michigan, but also across the country. And just last year, we were able to bring back an alum with an international perspective, Sophie Wong, who was in Shanghai. But it's really important to us as we consider programming and content and information and resources that we want the broadest perspectives possible as we consider those things. So 697,000. As you can imagine, I nerd out on, facts and figures. And so I was sitting around December commencement, just ready to turn the milestone to 700,000, and then got the news that we're not quite there yet. So after the spring commencement, we will be over the 700,000 mark. I often get asked, are we number 1 in terms of the number of alumni? We're not. Can anyone guess who is? Indiana. Those Hoosiers that I suspect some of us are rooting for for the national championship. Yes, Indiana has the largest alumni population, but we have the best. So that's okay. 105,000 members. What does it mean to be a member? It means that you believe in the purpose and mission of the Alumni Association. You contribute through membership, and we use those membership dollars to then plug back into our alumni engagement and student programming. Has anyone ever heard of Welcome Wednesdays? Okay. Oh, a couple people. So I will touch on that in the future because that is actually a place where we would welcome our retiree association to serve as volunteers if you have an interest in hanging out with current students. We have over 100 regional and international clubs and affiliate groups. So as you talked about your shared interest groups, it just gave me an opportunity to think about how can we make connections with some of our special interest groups. But what this means is Al was talking about there are alumni everywhere, and they are showing up to do about 1,300 events with their local clubs and affiliates every year. And so we certainly want to help make bridges happen between this group and those clubs. This gives you just a glimpse of all of the programs and services that we have to offer. Has anyone here been on an alumni travel program? Okay, is anyone willing to share highlights or how they felt about their experience with the group? Not to put you on this.
Hold on, here we go.
Okay.
Travel. So we went to China. It was fantastic. The thing I say to everybody, all I do is either write the check or put the credit card in, and they take care of absolutely everything. They are so wonderful at getting us to wonderful places easily, no problems whatsoever, ever. Now, people may have had other experiences, but ours has been fantastic.
Thank you for
We've
sharing
probably
that.
been on half a dozen.
Wow.
Anybody else? You want another one? Way down there. Okay, hold on. You got to use the mic. YouTube won't hear you.
I went to Australia and New Zealand. I'd had a cancer diagnosis and I decided I'm getting out of here. So I called the Alumni Association and I said, I want to go on your China trip. You said, it's full. I said, where are you going? You said, Australia and New Zealand. I said, sign me up. And it was well run, with competent, knowledgeable guides, and everything was pleasant and worked out beautifully. Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing that. We have the same commercials for alumni travel. I tell people, if you want all of the details taken care of, very special experiences, access to oftentimes Michigan faculty hosting the trips, and just to be in the company of other Wolverines, call our travel program. We do about 82 trips a year, 80 to 85 trips a year. We're one of the oldest in the country. One of our first trips was a 3-month trip around the world, which was so hard for me to comprehend back in the 1960s. But we have been at this for a very long time. So if you are a retired faculty or administrator and also would want to serve as a host, definitely talk to Al because he has had that experience. But we certainly encourage you to sign up for trips. We are also venturing in the space of family travel. So there are some opportunities for people to take their new grads on a trip with them. And so we really love to bring the generations together. So something else to think about. Career and lifelong learning. I have a feeling that this fits very squarely in what you're doing with some of your special interest groups. But has anyone participated in Alumni 101? We did a science of sleep, and the tagline was everybody does it, learn how to do it better. So there are opportunities to take advantage of Alumni 101 courses. These are all curated courses delivered by faculty virtually, and then we have field trips on campus. So keep your eye out for the next Alumni 101 program. Student programs, and so I asked about Welcome Wednesdays because that is when we turn our founders room at the Alumni Center into a coffee house. Every Wednesday during the school year, we'll see about 1,200 to 1,500 students come in for bagels and coffee. They line up. My favorite is to watch the dental students line up before clinics in their scrubs and then race back over to class. But it's a great opportunity to just spend some time and get the energy of a wide variety of students who spend time with us at the Alumni Center. And then Forever Go Blue Bash is our celebration of seniors that takes place in April, so there will be more information about that. Our new future alumni of Michigan Scholarship, Al talked about the Lead Scholars Program, which we unfortunately had to sunset last spring, but we pivoted very quickly and designed a new scholarship opportunity, which will be launching in about a week. And so this is a $5,000 scholarship that will be open to any incoming admitted student who will be a first-year student and who shows financial need. And so a lot of times the university does a great job of packaging students, giving them scholarships and grants, but that out-of-pocket cost can really hit our families pretty hard. And so this $5,000 is a 4-year commitment to students and designed to help reduce those out-of-pocket costs. The last thing, it sounds like I don't have to talk much about Camp Michigania. Raise your hand if you've never been to Camp Michigania. Okay, we got to turn that around, Al. We got to turn it around. What I love about Camp Michigania is, honestly, it is our family's favorite week of the year. I've never been at a place, and this includes the great town I live in, where my kids are running free and I do not worry about where they are or what they're doing. In fact, I worry that I don't see them because they're so busy. It is truly a family camp. So we have 400 acres on the wonderful shores of Walloon Lake in northern Michigan. If you can picture Boyne City and Petoskey, we're right there in the middle. And we have an 11-week summer program. We also love it when you have your own time at Camp Michigania. Our staff loves to host the UMRA group. But our applications for Camp Michigania will open January 20th. So again, another intergenerational opportunity if you want to talk about it with your family. There are activities for everyone, from kayaking to ceramics to horseback riding to what I like to call doing nothing but reading your book at the beach. One of my favorite activities, rock polishing, anything that you can imagine. The food is fantastic. It's the one place where my husband gets his omelets 7 days a week and my kids eat whatever they want. And we watch all the little kids hang onto the ice cream machine and some bigger kids as well. But it is truly wonderful and something, if you have not experienced it, I highly, highly recommend. We had another special guest, or special announcement at the end of the year. So Coach Kyle Whittingham joined the Wolverine family, and it was incredible because his press conference happened the day before our tailgate at the Citrus Bowl. So he made his debut with alumni with us in Orlando. He and his wife Jamie are going to be great additions to the Michigan family. But if you've never been on one of our athletic tours, again, they're fantastic. The entire band was there. So I don't know about you, but my favorite part of every tailgate is this band. I mean, nothing is more special than seeing those young people just really have that maize and blue spirit. The cheer team was there, the dance team was there, the president was there. We had a few regents there. Coach Whittingham gave some remarks. It was really incredible. You didn't hear it from me, but I anticipate we will have a tour to the Oregon game in the fall. I don't know when the game is, but again, if you want one of those turnkey experiences, and I've never been to that stadium, I'm really excited about it, consider joining us because it's going to be pretty special. As we consider how alumni can play a role in supporting student success and student ambition at Michigan, there is one way that is relatively new, the Future Alumni of Michigan Scholars Program. Again, the applications for students will be opening next week. And so we're really excited to have a cohort for the fall of 26 program. But I also want to say that our clubs have been in this business for years. So our alumni clubs have been doing a phenomenal job through the years of raising scholarship money. We also have a new student ambassador program. And so if you ever have activities where you'd like some current Wolverines to help out, we have a group of student ambassadors that represent a wide range of disciplines and ages. And so that's another great way to consider bringing a student voice into some of your activities. Alumni advocacy, a relatively new program. So last summer, we were able to run a couple of campaigns that allowed alumni to let their legislators hear their voices around things that are very important, like higher ed funding and protecting Medicare at Michigan Medicine. These were also just really great ways for us to demonstrate the power of alumni back to the university. And so we did these in partnership with government relations and Michigan Medicine. So anticipate more campaign opportunities as well. I just wanted to highlight a few ways that we already work together. More importantly, if there are some new ideas that you have as it relates to today's presentation, I'd love to hear them. But of course, we love when you are at Camp Michigania and having your presence at our homecoming tailgate. Access to those football tickets will be even more competitive, so we're happy to make it easy, especially with a new coach. There's going to be even more interest in doing that. And then if you have an interest in volunteering with us, Welcome Wednesdays is one of those ways to do it. But it's really important as we are designing new programs as a part of our strategic plan. If there are ways that we should and could be helping you, please let us know what those ways are. I'm going to very quickly walk through our strategic planning process and then open it up for questions. As Al said, I have been in the role for just a little over a couple of years, and it's been pretty sane and stable, right, in higher education. Nothing to see here. I teased our search firm. I was like, is crisis management a part of the job description for some of these jobs? Because it seems to be what a lot of leaders are up to. But last year, it became apparent to me it was time to really anchor our future and purpose and become more engagement focused. And so we spent quite a bit of time in a comprehensive process. We talked to alumni of every age and connection to the university. We included university leaders and worked really from February to October to develop a strategic plan that we were really excited about. And the charge was simple, like how can we become more alumni centered and focused and using good data to help us make decisions. So what surfaced from Project North Star was 2 value propositions, which was new for us. We've always had ideas of how we can offer value to alumni, but for the first time, we had a very specific value proposition back to the university. So for alumni, we really want to provide those lifelong connections. Again, very similar to the work that you do, whether it's through career, mentoring, scholarships, more importantly, volunteer opportunities. Volunteers are at the core of what we do between our alumni student recruiters throughout the world, the folks who are running our over 100 clubs and affiliate groups. We really couldn't do our work without volunteers. But really back to the university, we want to partner with them to keep those alumni connections for a lifetime, and also really widen the aperture to the broadest alumni network. If you think about our schools and colleges, there's 19 schools and colleges. So it's hard for the law school dean or the public health dean to really sometimes get content or get their message out in front of alumni from other units. And so we really want to partner and help all of our alumni understand the valuable resources back at Michigan. These are the 4 pillars of our engagement strategy. So no surprise, connections, communications, university partnerships, lifelong learning, and support. And so this is what we will use to anchor the work that we're going to do now and into the future. Having been in this role for just a couple of years, but at the association for 15, I'll say this: the best part of the job is the people. When I travel and I get to hear from alumni what Michigan meant to them, I'm reminded of the role that our university plays. And it's not just faculty, it's staff, it's students, it's truly the community. So I wanted to end with the thank you for all the work that got you here, because you all have had connections throughout your life to Michigan and made it special for so many alumni. Close to 697,000 people love Michigan, and it's because of the experience that our faculty, staff make happen every day. So thank you for that, and go Blue. I don't know if there are questions from the audience or from our fantastic viewers at home, but happy to take questions,
We
comments.
might have one from outline.
Yeah.
Hi there. My name is Susan Shields, and I don't have one yet from our online viewers, but I will say to those of you who are out there, where's the camera? Send your questions to umra@umich.edu. Did I get that right? And I'm monitoring the email. But my question for you is, my husband and I, longtime Michigan, obviously, employees, we're not alums, but we're privileged and excited to be members of the Alumni Association. So can you talk about that?
Yes. So we love to have our faculty and staff, former and current, become members of the association. Membership does give you premium access to things that are sometimes in low supply and high demand. For example, you can imagine a couple of years when we went to the national championship and all of a sudden everyone was checking their membership status. So I absolutely invite you to join, because sometimes that's also the case for our family members, parents of students. And so we also welcome them to be members of the Alumni Association. Thank you for asking that question. Yes.
Hold on, we got one.
Two, if I might. The first one is like this, the Wednesday.
Welcome Wednesday.
Welcome, not wellness. How does one, if you want to volunteer, how do you connect with and make that happen? Or another area as well?
I am going to put him on the spot, but if Al can help us circulate, whether it's just emailing him or I'm not sure who manages your volunteers, I will put you in touch with Ashley Hardy, who is our Director of Student Engagement. We have had success with some of our retirees coming to pass out bagels to our students. It's like a vitamin shot. Sometimes I'll just go down and just spend some time, 15 minutes in there. And oftentimes there's a table of campers at the Camp Michigania table, because we're also trying to recruit students to work at camp. So we can easily make that happen. It's every Wednesday between now and the end of the school year. So there's plenty of opportunities.
Good. And the second one was, you mentioned, these getting the alumni involved with programs. Do you do anything with specific units, like with this college or that college? Because again, we all represent different places in the university and might connect with a specific college.
Yes. Yeah, there are a lot of partnerships that we have with different schools and colleges. One that I don't know if it's public yet. It's a partnership that we're going to have with LSA. The new dean is really committed to showcasing the value of a liberal arts degree. And how it readies students not just to lead fulfilling lives, but really prepares them to be competitive in the workforce. And so there's a new type of career fair that she and her team are going to be standing up this spring. And so we've committed to helping identify alumni to help in that vein. So it's really at the discretion sometimes of the dean of the school and college, but oftentimes our colleagues are working with folks on the programming side. So it can happen organically. What I'm doing right now is is spending time with our deans, sharing our priorities, and looking for those intersection points. And that was one that was recently shared just with the School of LS&A. So yes, we do partner specifically with schools, colleges, and units. One of the best examples is our Pan-Asia reunion. That's where we invite, I think there are about 50 people from the University of Michigan who typically go to that. And we have panels around AI or new teaching, what does it mean to be a current student in Michigan? And so we bring faculty to spend time with us, and about 400 to 500 of our alumni in different parts of Asia. We do this annually every year, but it's really great to be able to bring together schools and colleges and leadership. All of you have worked at Michigan, so you know it can be pretty decentralized. So whenever we can bring people together, we also do that as well.
Let me say a word about the Welcome Wednesdays. I am working with Janice Rubin.
Perfect.
To try to set that up. I think it is something that you might be interested in, getting over to the Alumni Association, meeting students, and as Liana said, passing out bagels and just chatting with people. You might even get a bagel yourself.
Oh, yeah.
So you'll hear more about that in the near future. The other thing I've talked to Janice about is last year you started a Staff Appreciation Day. And she and I have talked that say you shouldn't forget about retirees in that.
That's right.
And so we might actually have a retiree appreciation as part of that staff appreciation. Is that kind of true? Or
if Janice said it's true, it must be true.
Okay. So just
yeah, that's
hopefully that type of thing can happen.
Thank
Again,
you.
a way that our two associations work together. And then one other question on, you mentioned the student ambassador program.
Mm-hmm.
We would like to set up a program where we interview retirees and then write articles for our newsletter. If there was a student that might interview somebody and then write something up, we could use it for our newsletter, and you might use it for your magazine. Is that type of thing available?
I don't want to speak for the person managing the Student Ambassador Program, but I want to give this opportunity back to her. I think it's a brilliant idea. And a lot of times people bring up the magazine as a source of content and communications. Two things about that. One, it comes out 3 times a year. So, and it's hard for us to know all the alumni stories that are possible, but a lot of great magazine ideas come from alumni who either submit a class note or send something in. So I will share with Al a couple of links I think that will be really helpful to help surface stories for the magazine. But the other thing is we do a newsletter every month. So there could be opportunity for content that's not just in the magazine, but also that will get in front of all of our members and non-members on a more frequent basis. There's more access to that. But I think that's a brilliant idea. So I'm happy to connect you with Ashley, who runs our Student Ambassador Program. I think that would be really fun for the students.
Good. Thank you.
Yeah, great idea. Any other questions?
Anybody? Nobody? All right.
I think I have to go home now and count how many days you will help welcome me to this auspicious group. Again, if there are ideas that surface later, please let me know. But thank you for staying connected to Michigan. It's great to brag about this group. I know you hosted a conference with your counterparts recently at the Alumni Center. We have one of the best retiree associations in the Big Ten, seriously. So thank you for making it special and wonderful. And as always, go blue. Thank you.
So during the break here, I mentioned it at the beginning, but in case people came in since I first said anything, last month we gave away a lot of books. I think there were 120 books that went away, but some people left without getting one. We've got more on the table out here, which you can pick up between the sessions, which is now, and first dibs go to those who kind of got shut out last time. But hopefully we'll have enough to have everybody leave with one today. So with that, your break starts a little early. 2 o'clock is our next speaker. We're going to get started in a couple minutes, so if you could take a seat, that'd be great. Dwayne, push Al for me. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. That was very good. Nice, quiet, relaxing. I'm going to introduce Sue Bade, who's going to introduce our speaker today.
Hi, I am really excited to present someone for you today. Dr. Ken Langa is the A. Regula Herzog Distinguished University Professor of Internal Medicine and Survey Research. He's also the Cyrus Sturgis Professor in the Department of Internal Medicine and the Institute for Social Research at the University of Michigan. This is a really long bio. He had to shorten it for us. He has a lot of awards. He's co-principal investigator and co-director of the Health and Retirement Study, co-director of the Harmonized Cognitive Assessment Protocol, International Network, both funded by the U.S. National Institute on Aging. Dr. Langer received an MD and PhD in public policy at the University of Chicago as a fellow in the Pew Program for Medicine, Arts, and Social Sciences. He's a general internist and an elected member of the U.S. National Academy of Medicine. Dr. Lange's research focuses on the epidemiology and economics of Alzheimer's disease and related dementias. Dr. Lange will talk with us today about risk factors for cognitive decline and dementia and what recent research has shown regarding ways to decrease your, mine, and our risks for dementia and stay cognitively and physically healthy as we age. So please help me welcome Dr. Ken Langa.
All right, thanks. Everyone hear me okay right here? Thank you, Sue. Thanks to the association for inviting me to give this talk, and thanks for coming out in the snowy weather. I'll dive right in here, and I'm going to leave some time for questions at the end, but certainly if I'm not clear about something and you really want to raise your hand and ask a question along the way, feel free to do that. And again, hopefully we'll have some interesting and actionable information for you about trying to stay healthy, keep our brains and bodies healthy as we age. Just as a quick overview of what I'll hope to do in the next 45 minutes or so, 40 minutes. First, just give a little background and define some things like what is dementia and what is Alzheimer's disease. And then, again, talk about what research has shown over the last 25 years or so, some of which we've done here at Michigan and other places, about reducing your risk of dementia. And there's the punchline right there. Walk, talk, and read. That's what I've been telling my patients for about 20 years. Walk, meaning stay physically active. Doesn't have to be walking. Other activity is good too. I know at least one regular swimmer in the audience who swims with my wife all the time. So swimming's great. Also, talk, staying connected with people and organizations, sort of doing, I'm preaching to the choir here, doing what you're doing here by staying connected and active, and then reading. Lots of evidence that challenging your brain right from the time you're born, actually right into your 90s is extremely important and helpful for keeping your brain healthy. Again, I'll talk about some of the work just as a plug to good old Wolverine research here at the University of Michigan, some of the work that we've done, and then finish up. All right, so first, what exactly is dementia? This is kind of the basic criteria from a very common diagnostic criteria that has been used since 2011. So what dementia is defined as is impairment in at least two cognitive domains, sort of thinking, things that our brains do to get us through the day. So obviously memory is probably the most commonly thought of when you think of Alzheimer's disease and dementia and decline as we age, but also reasoning, sort of being able to plan and follow a recipe, things like that, visual spatial abilities, being able to just sort of make sense of our physical surroundings, not getting lost, speech, and then behavior. So again, to be diagnosed with dementia, at least two of those domains need to be impaired. And importantly, for the definition of dementia, those impairments have to be severe enough to, you can see the sort of official text on the screen there, interfere with the ability to function at work or usual activities. So basically the cognitive decline has become severe enough that one needs help during the day. You've hit the disability threshold, as it's called, and are no longer able to really stay independent. And then also just those impairments in thinking and function are not explained by some other psychiatric or acute problem. Here's sort of just a general, hope you can see that, a general schematic of sort of brain aging and function as we live, just to have some of the terms. You can see the green line there, normal brain aging. You can see even for normal aging, it's going down, right? Most of us, we were talking before, everyone sort of starts to have some troubles forgetting names, forgetting faces, where'd I put my keys, things like that. There is some decline that's normal. Everyone will have some of that. The sort of non-normal or more concerning trajectories are kind of the orange and red there, that at some point that trajectory is more steeply downward, and it's not just that you're forgetting your keys, but maybe what are keys used for as you're declining on your cognitive function there. And MCI is a term you may have heard before, mild cognitive impairment. That's a sort of classification of having some of those cognitive problems. You're sort of measurably worse than you used to be, but you haven't hit that threshold of dementia where you're disabled. So you might have a bit more trouble. For instance, I talked about a recipe, might take you a bit longer, but you're kind of still able to do it and still sort of safe in your home. It's possible that you can sort of flatten out from there and not keep going in a downward trajectory. I'll talk about some of the reasons that might happen, where you get to MCI and you just sort of stay that way. But then mild dementia, moderate dementia again, when those impairments continue to worsen and you become disabled in daily life. So what are some of the causes of dementia? So Alzheimer's disease, again, is one type of dementia, which again is a very common question and unclear exactly what the relationship between those two are. But dementia, again, is the more general syndrome, as it's called in medical terminology, and Alzheimer's disease is one of the causes of that syndrome. You may know Alzheimer's disease characterized by the buildup of abnormal proteins in your brain, one called amyloid, the other called tau. I'll talk again a little bit more about that in just a bit. Vascular dementia, as the name implies, is related to troubles with blood flow to the brain, so getting atherosclerosis, the buildup of cholesterol plaques in your arteries that makes it harder to get the blood to the brain. That's what vascular dementia is. And then you can see some other rarer causes. Parkinson's disease increases your risks for dementia, something called frontotemporal dementia, dementia with Lewy bodies. Late is is short for that long, complicated medical words there that you can see: limbic predominant age-related TDP43 encephalopathy. TDP is another abnormal protein, different from the one that causes Alzheimer's disease. And then some reversible causes, which are important to, if you or a loved one is having some cognitive decline that you're worried about. Things like, again, I'm sure you've all seen this, even with yourselves or others, being on lots of different kinds of medications can sometimes have the unintended effect of making cognitive troubles or cognitive impairment, alcohol, B12, depression, and other things there. But just to make things a little more complicated, it's actually the case that for the types of dementia that we think about as people get older in their 70s, 80s, 90s, it's almost always the case that there's more than one problem or pathology going on, that Alzheimer's disease overlapping with vascular problems. So this makes it a little more complex to think about treatments and preventions, because it's again, the brain's a complicated organ, obviously, and the things that can cause it to malfunction are also complicated. There's different pathologies, and almost always these pathologies are overlapping and mixed. So to dive in a little bit more about Alzheimer's disease and more specific about the abnormal proteins, is just sort of a cartoon here showing the spindly things are your neurons, the nerve cells in your brain. You have about 100 billion nerve cells, neurons in your brain, and 100 trillion connections between them. So the sort of long strands coming out from the centers of the cells there are connecting with one another. Those are, again, the connection between brain cells are called synapses. Those are the things that somehow fire in ways that allow us to think and cause consciousness in ways that we still don't really understand at all. The kind of fuzzy looking stuff below that cell on the left there is the abnormal protein called amyloid that builds up outside of brain cells. The kind of dark stuff within the cells is the other abnormal protein called tau. And those abnormal proteins, again, build up for reasons we're not entirely sure right now. They can cause an inflammatory response that your body will sort of react to those proteins and send white blood cells and inflammation and cause death to the brain cells, and that's what ends up causing the problems with your cognition. Here's a picture just to get a better sense a larger sense of how that can affect your brain. That's sort of on the left side of the slide is a kind of picture of a healthy brain. On the right, one with advanced Alzheimer's, and obviously the most obvious difference is just sort of the shrinkage that's caused by Alzheimer's disease. That's, again, this inflammation leading to death of brain cells and a shrinking of the brain. This one particular area down there on the bottom, we should pay attention to. I'll talk more about that going forward. That's called the hippocampus, which is a part of the brain that where sort of memory formation, maps of the outside world. That's the part of the brain that's required to kind of lay down memories initially. So on the other side, in the Alzheimer's affected brain, you can see that there's a kind of big space where much of the hippocampus is, and that's again sort of the classic change of Alzheimer's disease is shrinking of this hippocampus, and that's what again leads to the memory problems that are typical of Alzheimer's disease. Just to cover some things you may have heard in the news over the last year or two, it is a sort of very interesting and exciting time in Alzheimer's disease research. I've been doing this for 25 years or so, and up until a couple years ago, there's been almost no successful treatments or new treatments for Alzheimer's disease. But over the last couple of years, there's been two important changes. One is the development of blood tests that allow the identification of that amyloid and tau protein in the body. So by just doing a blood test and looking at levels of amyloid and protein in the blood, it can actually give you a measure of how much amyloid and tau is in your brain. So that's obviously a big, potentially big development in terms of trying to diagnose Alzheimer's disease. There's also been, in the last few years, 2 new treatments that actually remove that amyloid from the brain. Again, I've heard of these. Leqembi and Kisunla are the trade names of these new medicines. They've been approved over the last couple of years for MCI, that mild cognitive impairment, and early Alzheimer's stage. Some of the problems with these, or problems with the medications that are now available, they're quite time-consuming. They're not pills. You have to go to an infusion center to actually get these intravenous infusions every 2 to 4 weeks, which obviously is not an ideal way to have to get a medication. There's also, I won't go into it today, it's sort of a topic for another couple hours of talking and discussion about the benefits of these medications. Are they truly sort of changing the trajectory of cognitive decline? Are they keeping people thinking better longer? Are they worth both this, the potential side effects? There's potential significant side effects with these medications, including small amounts of bleeding in the brain as it affects blood vessels. They're very expensive. You have to have an IV infusion. So interesting, again, debate about these medications, which will continue over the next decade, I'm sure, as new versions of these and perhaps pill forms of these medications become available. All right, so turning to kind of the main focus of the talk, how exactly can we try to prevent this cognitive decline and dementia in middle age and later in life? What can we do? And again, it is, in the time that I've been working on this, actually quite optimistic news in the last quarter century or so, and that the optimism is about that it does seem clear that we can do things, change our behaviors in ways that can have an important impact on the risk for dementia. Again, some estimates are that up to a half of the cases of dementia around the world right now can be prevented by addressing several things. And this is sort of split up into kind of early life, midlife, and late life. What are the things that we can do? Schooling, again, as I'll talk about even more, and I mentioned already, it seems very clear that how we use our brains as they're getting wired up, again, from birth basically through our mid-20s, how you, again, challenge your brain. Are you thinking about complex things? Are you in conversations that use all parts of your brain? There's sort of the clear analogy to working out and keeping your muscles or building up your muscles in the same way that by using our brains, those connections between those neurons seem to get strengthened in important ways. So again, kind of lots of research showing that the more you go to school, going through college, and the number of years you spend in school is related to how your risk of dementia later in life, with more schooling decreasing that risk. And then in midlife, again, lots of epidemiologic and other research over the last 25 years or so show that these cardiovascular risk factors, think again about that the overlap of Alzheimer's disease and vascular disease, anything we can do that decreases atherosclerosis, keeps our blood vessels healthy, seems to also decrease our risk for dementia. So again, blood pressure, smoking, trying to stay a healthy weight, and again, physical activity to address all of those seems really important. Other things like not drinking too much alcohol, staying away from injuries to your head, mental health issues, things like trying to get treatment for depression and anxiety also seems important. And then addressing hearing loss, also more recent evidence suggests that using hearing aids is also important for decreasing dementia risk, and I'll again talk a little bit more about why that might be in just a bit. Later in life, again, this idea of staying connected to other people and activities seems important. Social isolation seems to increase the risk of dementia. Another sensory impairment, visual loss, also seems to increase risk. Both the hearing loss and the vision loss probably have impacts in a couple ways. One is to people who are having hearing impairment or trouble with vision are less likely to go out into the world and interact with people, just because it becomes more difficult, whether through embarrassment or just safety, again, sort of not being able to see where you're going or hear. So that sort of connection to social isolation and staying connected, probably one of the pathways that sensory loss, like hearing loss and vision loss, acts, but also perhaps just the stimulation of the brain itself. Again, back to the idea that keeping our brain exercised or engaged seems important for keeping it healthy. If you're having less visual signals and hearing or auditory signals going to your brain might actually damage the brain itself. Air pollution, and another growing evidence that the environment around us, the world around us, also has important impacts on the brain, including a negative impact from air pollution. I'll show you a little of research about that in just a minute. All right, so to kind of dig in a little deeper on some of these key issues that seem to allow prevention of dementia. Again, physical activity is, if there's one thing I'd take away from the talk today, is how important it is to be up and moving in any way, even 15 minutes a day, 30 minutes. It just seems like our bodies evolved in a way that as people have done less physical activity or been required to do less physical activity, that has lots of negative effects on the brain. I often call it the only silver bullet in medicine. There's no bad side effects to getting up and walking, other than being careful and not falling when you're out and about, which is important. But there really is no downside to getting up and moving. A couple of sort of research studies that have been done relatively recently to show this relationship. This is a famous study you may have heard of. The Framingham Heart Study has been going on since the 1940s. The town of Framingham, outside of Boston, some epidemiologists basically enrolled everyone in the town in a study back in the 40s, and has been following many of them ever since. Lots of the research on why cholesterol is bad for us and treating cholesterol all came out of the Framingham study. So they've also, again, been looking at risk for dementia. This is kind of a geeky academic figure here, but just to work through it with you. This is, again, from that Framingham study. They looked at the sort of 3 different phases of life. You can see early adult life, midlife, late life, these groups along the left side here. That was people younger than 45, and then the midlife was 45 to 64, and then later life 65 and older. And they split out those people by how much exercise they did, basically how much physical activity that they reported. And 5 is the highest level within each of these groups, and 1 is the lowest level. And then the sort of figure on the right side is kind of the punchline here, where the kind of dotted line down the middle means is kind of the null point where it's compared to. So they're comparing to the people who did the lowest level of activity. And then to the left of that line basically says that that group has a lower risk of dementia compared to the reference group, which again is the group that did the least amount of exercise. So you can see mainly in kind of looking at the midlife and late life groups, as you do more exercise during life, your dementia risk decreases pretty significantly down to almost half. For the late life, the folks that did the most exercise had almost half the risk of dementia compared to those that were doing the least. Interestingly, in early adult life, you can see there's not as much evidence of a benefit of physical activity. So it does seem like kind of midlife and late life, staying active during that time seems especially important. Just another type of study. This is a more experimental study where a group of adults was randomized to an exercise program where people were sort of encouraged to walk and be active up to 40 minutes a few times a week, compared to others that were just doing a stretching exercises, not really getting out and walking. The top row is looking again at that important area. We talked about the hippocampus, and basically the hippocampus grew in the group that was doing physical activity. That's the top line there. You can see sort of going up as they did MRIs over the next year. The volume, the size of that hippocampus actually got larger in the group that was doing physical activity compared to the other group that wasn't. Other parts of the brain didn't really get as much benefit or any benefit from the physical activity, but again, that hippocampus where the memories are formed, it does seem very sensitive to physical activity. One other quick study that I was involved in, this is from a large study in England and the United Kingdom that has collected lots of information and on dementia risk and genetic risk and other things, lifestyle, throughout the life course. And again, a similar kind of figure over there on the right, showing dementia risk. And the key take home from this study was, what we were looking at was, there are genetic risks for dementia, for Alzheimer's disease. So it is the case that Alzheimer's disease, for instance, runs in families. If your parents had Alzheimer's disease, you are at a bit higher risk. It's definitely not determinative that you'll definitely get it, but there are some genetic risks. But what we did here was to try to look at, even if you're at high genetic risk, which is that lower group there, the lower three rows, having better lifestyle. This was favorable lifestyle, intermediate, unfavorable, based on a few different things, whether you smoked or not, how much physical activity you did, and how much alcohol you took. So some of those lifestyle issues that we talked about before. And basically, no matter what your genetic risk was, if you had a favorable lifestyle, your risk of dementia was lower overall. So again, even if you're at higher risk, it still pays to do these lifestyle changes. And here, I've always liked this little cartoon here. So what fits your busy schedule better? Exercising or being dead? So I think that's a good way to encapsulate everything I said for the last 15 minutes. Although some of my patients will then think about this. There's no improvement, Henry. Are you sure you've given up everything that you enjoy? So there is some balance. You still, if you don't want to live longer if you're hating every day that you're living, right? You still want to have some enjoyment in your life, but trying to figure out that balance of getting up off the couch, eating a little bit better is important. All right, let's turn to education and what we're doing in this room here and lifelong learning. Again, I talked about this education seems incredibly important as you're growing up. The sort of academic jargon for this or these terms is called cognitive reserve, that again, somehow challenging your brain builds a stronger brain. And on this graph here, it's sort of age, you know, as getting older, going to the right, and how your brain and cognitive function is working. People who have that high cognitive reserve, who've done education, challenge their brains for years and years. Again, it seems like there's stronger connections, more connections. So as you get some of those proteins, which almost all of us do, the bad proteins, your brain is able to deal with them and sort of adjust to them better. So your brain keeps functioning normally farther out and older than someone who has that low cognitive reserve. And if you do start declining, it's usually later, and you're more likely to not hit the dementia threshold because you die of something else earlier, or you do it at a later time. So that's sort of the idea of cognitive reserve. So there's a kind of fun set of studies that address this idea of lifelong learning, not just when you're growing up and a kid, but even into your adult life, that challenging your brains. So before Google Maps, so 20 years or so ago, London taxi drivers would spend up to 4 years learning the map, the complicated map of London and the city and how to navigate it. And again, back to that hippocampus is the area in the brain which stores these maps of the outside world and allows us to think about geography and think about three-dimensional space. So some researchers in England had this question: what happens to the hippocampus of those London taxi drivers while they're learning the knowledge, is the slang for this 4 years of learning the map, learning the knowledge. And again, not surprisingly, what in the theme of what we've talked about so far, the folks that qualified, the taxi drivers that passed their test after the 4 years of knowledge, have larger hippocampus than those that didn't, and then also those sort of control groups that weren't doing this. So again, the punchline being this challenging the brain, learning a map actually seems to physically change the brain and increase the size of the hippocampus. It's just another way to see it, that the longer they sort of followed taxi drivers for years afterwards, and the longer they were at it as a taxi driver and challenging their brain with these with the maps and navigation, the larger the hippocampus overall. Other things, and again, I'm sure you've heard some of these studies reported in the news and in newspapers. Really, almost all cognitively stimulating activities, many have been studied, things like, again, reading, board games, crossword puzzles, musical instruments, I was talking about before, seem, sort of learning new musical instruments and challenging your brain that way, dancing. There's been studies that suggest that all of those things, again, sort of keep your brain healthy, decrease your risk of dementia. There is one, again, back to some of the academic stuff we worry about in doing all of this research, especially research that's not an experiment where we're just sort of following people over time. There is this issue, what we call reverse causality. So again, I said that, the longer the taxi driver was driving, the larger their hippocampus was. There is this, it could be going the other way, that as people become a bit impaired, they stop doing those activities, and it sort of shows up in our studies as the activity is keeping you healthy, but it's actually going the other way, that when people start to become unhealthy, they stop the activity. So that's always something we need to think about in these studies, and frankly why you hear about this dietary change may help you long term or may help your health, and then you hear 2 years later, no, that's not actually how it works, and you kind of change, and many of those sort of changed results are related to these ideas of either confounding, where what you're looking at is it's not really that intervention. It's not driving a taxi that's leading to healthier brains long term. It's that healthier brains allow you to become a taxi driver and things like that. So again, just as a quick cautionary tale that science is always updating, and we have to kind of not put all of our eggs in one basket, so to speak, on some of these issues. Let's just talk briefly about social isolation. Again, I've talked about it a bit. Loneliness, being socially isolated, also increasing evidence that that has a negative effect on your health in general and your brain in particular. This is from a specific study of a University of Michigan study that I'll tell you a bit more about, where some colleagues at the School of Public Health here looked at people reporting loneliness. So this is from, again, a study, large study based at the Institute for Social Research at the University of Michigan that I've been working on for 25 years or so with some great colleagues. And in this study, the specific study about loneliness and risk of memory decline, colleagues looked at, we asked a question, we asked people to tell us have they felt lonely over the last year or so, and we interview them every 2 years. And the people who told us that they felt lonely had an increased risk for memory decline over this time period. We also test people's memories in this health and retirement study. And the more time points that people told us they were lonely, the increased or the greater the risk of memory decline we found. So someone who told us that they were lonely at only one time point over 8 years, their memory it was as though they had aged about 3 more months than the people who hadn't reported being lonely. And if you had told us that you were lonely at 3 different time points during those 8 years, it was actually as though the amount of decline, memory decline, compared to someone who wasn't reporting loneliness was actually as though you had aged an additional 2.5 years. So again, it does seem like there's a negative impact of not having stimulation through conversation, through just comfort with having people around you. So just, again, as a quick aside, I've been talking about, it seems clear that we have the power, we can change our behavior, our lifestyles, and decrease our risk for cognitive decline or other bad things later in life. It is the case, and I don't think all of you know this, but just to say it specifically, again, the environment and sort of the social conditions that we find ourselves are also have huge impacts on life expectancy, on health. Again, from this health and retirement study, we've found that, for instance, rich women live to age 89, poor women to 79. So there's a huge impact on life expectancy and health just on the where you are in the economic order within the United States and in places around the world. Again, as many of you know, there's also very different racial and ethnic differences in the United States and other places. For instance, African Americans have probably twice the risk of dementia compared to white Americans, even though their life expectancy is shorter. And these disparities have gotten significantly worse, have widened as part of the COVID pandemic and sort of the varying impact of the pandemic on people who were rich or poor, white or black. So again, just like to make sure that we keep that in there, that it's not it's not just your own behavior, it's sort of where you find yourself in society that also has a huge impact on health. All right, just to finish up, a plug to some of the University of Michigan research on dementia with some results I think will be of interest to you. So this is, again, from this health and retirement study that I mentioned. We published a paper in 2014. My colleague Michael Hurd, who's at the RAND Corporation, led this study to try to understand the full economic impact of dementia in the United States using data from that health and retirement study. And the, again, sort of the bottom line, punchline is that it's an incredibly expensive disease. About $50,000 per case per year was the general big picture cost of one case of Alzheimer's disease. This is or dementia, I should say, the additional economic impact per person in the United States. This was in 2010. And again, for many of you who have had to take care of people with dementia in your families, not surprising that fully half the cost of dementia is just accounted for with the time that families have to spend providing care. Another quarter of that is long-term care and nursing homes. So again, nothing that's too surprising, but to see the full impact, the $200 billion a year to the United States, 50,000 per case, and the huge impact on the families, we think is important to recognize for ourselves and for policymakers. This was actually, again, some good news related to dementia risk in the United States, and this has been shown in other countries around the world. That bar on the left, about 11.6% of people in the United States who are 65 and older had dementia in 2000, the year 2000. That had actually declined. The rate of dementia declined for the 65 plus population. So that might sound surprising, but again, it has been shown in other places around the world. And the main reason for this is the big increase, we think, is the big increase in level of education during that time period. So sort of post-World War II, the number of people going to college kind of shot up in the United States, and there was just a large increase during this time period of how much education people have. And we think, again, back to that idea of cognitive reserve, that explains this actually decreased risk. So again, just to say it plainly, an 80-year-old today has a significantly lower risk of having dementia than an 80-year-old in, say, 1990. There's more people with dementia and Alzheimer's disease now than 30 years ago, but that's because there's been a huge increase in the number of people that are older. But for each individual, the risk seems to have gone down. Again, we think partly for this increase in education, probably also better treatment of some of those cardiovascular risk factors that we mentioned. This was a study just to kind of show that the racial difference and the racial disparity that I mentioned, and what this graph is showing, again, from the health and retirement study, is the relative rates of dementia for African Americans versus whites in the United States. It's between 2000 and 2016. And just focusing on the left panel there, basically the risk for dementia in African Americans is almost 2 times, sort of 1.8, 1.5, and 2. That's the ratio between blacks and whites. And that sort of difference, that disparity, came down slightly, but not too much, between 2000 and 2016. Still, African Americans had 1.5 times the risk of having dementia in the United States compared to whites in 2016. Then showing, again, focusing in a bit on this interesting issue of air pollution and the impact that air pollution might be having on our brains and our bodies. This, again, is from the health and retirement study, where we linked in, there's now databases that have information on the level of pollution in various places across the country. And by linking that with this, where we know people live in the health and retirement study, we can do these studies of what's the relationship between how much pollution you've been exposed to and your dementia risk. And we did find, and again, this has been replicated in other places around the world, that people who lived in areas where they were exposed to more pollution during their life, especially pollution from wildfires and agricultural runoff, pesticides, things like that, those areas seem to be related to the biggest increase in dementia risk for people who are exposed to those. The health and retirement study that I mentioned, it's been incredibly fun to work with, again, great colleagues at ISR. It's also been fun because many countries, or a significant number of countries around the world, have started studies patterned on the HRS. You can see about 40 countries around the world now doing studies patterned on our study here in the United States, and also a number of studies. The HCAP studies are specifically focused on the issues of cognition and dementia. And again, it's not only do you learn important information about the health of people in other countries around the world, but to have studies done in similar ways where you can compare outcomes and what's the risk of dementia in parts of Africa versus the United States versus Brazil versus Europe allows you to try to understand a bit better what are the things that could decrease or increase risk around the world. Was there a question?
We can't read it, I guess.
Oh, it's actually not that important. It's the various, I'm sorry about that. This HRS, the Health and Retirement Study, is the studies that I've been mentioning. That's sort of the green and white. The green and yellow are those studies. The others include these dementia sub-studies that I mentioned.
Because I was going to ask a question about whether the international studies related to culture and ethnicity, like multifamilies living together, or people who walk everywhere,
yep,
or
absolutely.
eat Mediterranean diet, if that made a difference.
Yep, you hit the nail on the head. That's the whole idea of doing these kinds of investments and studies around the world is, there's different ways of families, multiple generations living in the same home, and those kind of cultural differences, dietary differences, public policy differences, things like countries that pay for long-term care and nursing homes. Does that lead to less burden on the family in terms of care? So all of those things are what we're trying to study. And actually, good lead in. Here's just to give you, again, you may not be able to read it. I can read it a little bit more. These are some of the kinds of studies from the international data that are trying to get at some of those issues that you mentioned. So for instance, the kinds of occupation that people have, the work that they do during their lives seems important for, again, preventing dementia risk, the type of how you use your brain in your job. So we've looked at that at a number of countries around the world. How education affects health and brain health in different countries around the world. The one at the bottom left is sort of interesting. This was a study looking at what's called a negative wealth shock. So if someone has some kind of tragedy in their life or loses money for various different kinds of reasons, whether it's divorce or a health problem or other things like that, that wealth shock, as it's called, seems to be important in your health long term, that having one of those wealth shocks can increase your risk of death, increase your risk of chronic disease, increase your risk of dementia. And then we looked at that in the United States, China, England, and Mexico to see how that might differ across those countries. And the wealth shock was had the biggest negative effect in the United States and China, actually. And again, still sort of people are following up on that to figure out exactly why. Again, perhaps related to public policies about in terms of addressing some of those wealth shocks or how housing might be affected or things like that. But that's sort of the idea of doing these kinds of studies in different countries. All right, so just to follow up and get back to the punchlines, to reemphasize that, again, to reduce your risk of dementia and Alzheimer's disease, the various things you can do. The first one I mentioned in some ways before is die young. And most of my patients don't like this advice, but I do put it in there just as a reminder that we're really only here talking about dementia and Alzheimer's disease because of all the successes that we've had in other parts of medicine and public health. You may know life expectancy has increased 25 years or so over the last few generations. And so dementia and Alzheimer's disease were much less of an issue when life expectancy was in the 60s rather than around 80. So again, it's obviously a huge problem, but in some ways it's a problem that's related to the successes that we've had in increasing life expectancy long term. So obviously I don't want you to die young, but it is a way to, you won't get dementia if you die in your 30s or 40s. And so life expectancy quite important in that sense. You can also, again, just to a reminder that our social conditions are important too, sort of what the kinds of environment that you're brought up in. Having educated, wealthy parents is likely to decrease your risk too. But then also the things we mentioned, the lifestyle things. Make sure to get up and move. That would be my one top advice to everyone, and I say to all my patients, it really does seem that physical activity, and again, it doesn't have to be running marathons every day, even just getting up and moving a bit seems incredibly important for your brain. Talking, again, staying connected, doing the things that you're doing here, and staying connected with friends and family seems really important. Friends, families, and organizations. Again, this lifetime of learning, reading, challenging your brain, doing things that stretch yourself. We also learned one option would be to think about London cab driver. Although, as you may imagine, there's lots of interest now in what is Google Maps doing to our brains that we no longer have to do any of that and just plug it in and it goes. Could be that we're doing damage to our hippocampus by not actually having to learn maps anymore. The cardiovascular risks are the other really important thing. Controlling blood pressure, cholesterol. Again, physical activity is good for all of these things. Didn't have time to go into it. Seems increasing evidence that trying to make sure you're getting enough sleep. Our brains actually probably clean out some of those bad proteins while we're sleeping, and that's probably why getting enough sleep is important for keeping your brain healthy, sort of cleaning things out and decreasing the risk of that inflammation is what good sleep does. Vision and hearing impairment, again, making sure to use your hearing aids if you need them, get your cataracts fixed, use your glasses, keep the information flowing into the brain seems really important too. And that's it. Just thanks to our funders are the National Institute on Aging, the Social Security Administration, all of the people that agreed to be in all these studies. We thank them. And I'll stop there and can take some questions.
All right, before we get on to the questions, just a reminder, online viewers to send in your questions to umra@umich.edu, and we do have a couple. We'll start with those two, right? You said you had two?
Christopher asked about the connection between the B12 level.
Good question. So B12 and a number of other vitamins, B6 and some others, can have a direct impact on the health of brain cells. You sort of need B12 to keep your neurons healthy. So it's B12 deficiency is actually quite rare in Western countries like ours with the diets that we have. But it is that is one thing when someone's having some trouble with cognitive problems, you want to make sure it's not something that you could correct quickly like B12 deficiency. So that's the connection between B12 and the brain and other nerves in your body.
Okay, we had another one from online. It's just the email address, Kanawak wanted to know the relationship between inflammation risk factors and increase in dementia risk.
Yeah, so as I mentioned, sleep, as we talked with just about at the end, but basically anything that increases the level of inflammation in your body. So as you all know, the inflammatory response in our immune system is what protects us against invaders like bacteria and viruses and things like that. Your white blood cells go to fight off those kinds of invaders, or if we cut ourselves, white blood cells and inflammatory, lots of different chemicals go there to rebuild the tissue and again address the things that are in our body, the bacteria and things that are getting in. The problem is that inflammation also can affect your healthy cells or the things that you don't want to be you don't want to be fighting against. So levels of inflammation, for instance, in the brain, and these would be, sort of inflammatory cells within the bloodstream that are going to the brain that are sort of interpreting the bad proteins in your brain as an invader in some way. The inflammation, sort of continued inflammation, will basically just damage the cells and the nerve cells and other cells in our body. For instance, arthritis, rheumatoid arthritis, or autoimmune diseases is another example of where the immune system ends up doing damage to the healthy cells in our body. So rheumatoid arthritis would be the cells, the cartilage in our joints, whereas again the inflammation in the brain will do damage to those brain cells and sort of cause that shrinkage of the brain because the cells are being killed off. And again, there's lots. One of the ways that physical activity is healthy or causes or does good things for us is to decrease the level of inflammation in your body. So sort of physical activity itself, sleep, kind of tones down the inflammatory response, and that's likely one of the important pathways that's keeping us healthy.
So I got a question, and I'm going to turn it over to him. You talked about these infusion things and so how expensive they are. Do you know whether or not Medicare or U of M's insurance policies cover any of that stuff?
That's a good question. Yeah, that's part of the debate. So Medicare, you may know that the typical process for drugs sort of going from research to testing to then out to be used, the FDA, the Federal Drug Administration in the United States, sort of has the job of examining the evidence for medications and are they safe and doing what say they're doing in terms of improving health or improving cognition or in the case of the Alzheimer's drugs. The FDA did their work and said that these medications do seem to have some benefit. Again, there's still some debate about how much benefit they're having, but then it's the CMS, the Medicare program, then decides, okay, the FDA says this is working, should we cover it as a insured medication? And CMS is now covering these infusion medications. There's some restrictions or criteria that you have to meet. As I mentioned, they've only been approved for MCI and the early stages of Alzheimer's disease. So you sort of need to do some testing to make sure that your patient, if you're a prescribing physician, your patient is within those, sort of fits those criteria for the medication before Medicare would pay for it.
Your presentation seemed to emphasize factors affecting risk or incidence as opposed to severity over time. Does what you say apply in the severity over time to essentially the same ways, or are there any differences or any lack of knowledge that we have in those two distinctions?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think there have been studies of again, back to my beating a dead horse here, physical activity among those who are already have either MCI or dementia in the early stages, and that prevents progression to more severe stages. I mean, I do think probably at very severe stages of Alzheimer's disease or dementia that some of these interventions are likely not going to prevent more decline. But I do think, as you said, there's evidence of both preventing the initial onset of dementia, but then also slowing progression, and so preventing more severe stages for things like, again, physical activity, for instance.
Hold on.
Okay. I'll let you decide.
It's over there.
I got Mike. Hi. As my hearing has gotten worse and I've gotten more sophisticated hearing aids that are Bluetooth activated, I've moved from reading books normally, if you will, to audiobooks. Has there been any? My wife says that doesn't count.
Yeah.
But and she's usually right. Yeah. But I thought I'd ask somebody who knows more than my wife.
Yeah.
So.
No, it's a great question, and I would say that the evidence is not in yet on that. I do think, yeah. So there is again this question of is the actual act of reading the words on a page doing something different to your brain than hearing them. I think again so the bottom line is I don't think we know for sure what is one better than the other. I think some of the theories are that an audiobook, while it's doing something different, is still likely to make for lack of a better term, make those neurons fire and think about other things, just following along with the story itself. So my gut is again not backed up by research yet that they probably have similar benefits, or at least some benefits doing the audiobooks. Again, assuming sort of the old time reading that we think about maybe better than audiobooks. I'm pretty convinced that the audiobooks are doing something beneficial. It's better than not doing anything at all, would be my guess.
Okay, it looks like we got 3 more questions we're going to try. I got 2 back here, and then we may go a little over, but we only got 3 questions.
Well, thank you. I just have 2 real quick questions. Do you have any opinion about commercially available supplements like Prevagen and others that are supposed to boost memory? And related to that, do you have any impression about commercially available computer-based cognitive stimulation kinds of activities?
Yep, great questions. I typically advise my patients that Prevagen and similar kinds of supplements, there's really not good evidence that they are beneficial. There's always the concern about people taking lots of supplements that it can be harmful as they interact and things like that.
Did
So I don't
another
think
email
there's there's great evidence, or frankly any evidence at all for some of those supplements. Yeah, the sort of cognitive training and the online stuff is a really interesting and important question. Again, many of the there hasn't been a lot of evidence for some of the online games, but there has been a study of specific kinds of online training and cognitive training that do seem to have some benefit. I can send that information around if that would be helpful. But again, I think there's a range of outcomes from some of the online training. Much of it, I don't think there isn't evidence that it's going to prevent cognitive decline, but there are some things that, some specific kinds of things. One that sort of is very, what's the word, kind of attention-based. So you're sort of driving a car, along a path, and you have to note when certain things get in your way and things like that. So really sort of challenging different parts of your brain, and there is some evidence that those kinds of interventions, online interventions, might have benefit.
I have a question that may have 2 parts actually. Recently I was reading something, and they talked very emphatically about the role of electromagnetic ways that damage the brain, especially with extensive use by people, but especially by workers who are in that domain in their business. So that's one interesting aspect which I hadn't foreseen. The other is I would like your comment on the supplement that Sanjay Gupta has been talking about. I saw an announcement for a book that he has published last week, but I haven't yet seen it. So I'd like your comment on these matters.
Yeah, supplement that Sanjay Gupta, I know that he's been doing work on aging, but unfortunately I don't know that one specifically. Sanjay.
Neuromax or something.
Yeah. Again, there may be some evidence of benefit. I guess and you can maybe get the sense from this presentation in general, I'm pessimistic or a little suspect about sort of one specific thing that might lead to benefit, like eating blueberries or taking this specific thing, just because the brain is so complex and the pathologies are so complex. To me, that it's much more likely that sort of these larger things like physical activity, staying connected, reading, are likely to do benefit. Again, I think the single supplement or the single type of food, to me, there's just lower likelihood that's going to have a big impact. Again, I have to say I don't know the specific things that Sanjay Gupta was talking about. And then the electromagnetic waves or other kinds of environmental impacts. There's certainly possibilities that, again, for instance, we never thought of pollution or the chemicals in our environment that might have an impact. Again, I don't know the specific type of waves that you're talking about, but I would say in general there's a possibility that things in our environment will have an impact on the brain. But I don't know the specific type or evidence about those.
We got one final question. It's one from our online viewers. So here's our last question.
Daniel Burns says that you were going to add some comments about the tau protein.
About the tau protein, I guess. Well, I'm not sure exactly. They meant that. So that's what's known as hyperphosphorylated tau. Tau is a protein that's in all of our nerve cells and other cells that helps with sort of movement of nutrients around the cell. And what happens in Alzheimer's disease is that gets kind of misshapen, and these phosphorus groups get stuck on it and make it so it can't work. It's thought that the buildup of amyloid in our brains kind of increases the risk that the tau protein then becomes misshapen, and some of these medications are aimed at again decreasing the amyloid and therefore decreasing the abnormal tau protein. It does the tau. Some of the more recent evidence shows that that's likely the tighter link with cognitive decline than the amyloid protein that's outside the brain cells. I'm predicting you'll hear lots more about tau related to these medicines over the next, again, 5-10 years, because it does seem as though that's the thing that's showing up again and again as the key link between the pathology and cognitive decline. That tau seems very important. I hope that's what he had in mind.
Thank you very much for the talk. It's terrific. A lot of interest in it.
Thank you.
And thanks for staying a little bit extra. This topic was fascinating, and there's more questions. I don't know if you'll hang around,
Sure.
but
Happy to hang around.
we'll corner you over here.
Sure.
And we'll thank you all for coming, braving the weather today, and we'll see you at our February meeting, which I believe is on the 12th.